Wow, do I get to?
Okay.
Ready? I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. The Texas Government Code permits this Board of Trustees to meet and close executive session for the following reasons, among others: to consult with the college district's attorneys on matters deemed privileged by the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct or Government Code 551.071, to deliberate regarding real property under 551.072, a prospective gift under 551.073, certain personnel matters under 551.074, security devices or security audits under 551.076, and economic development negotiations under 551.087. If the board meets in closed session, we will announce the particular section under which we will be doing so prior to initiating the closed portion of the meeting. It's great to see so many folks here today. Welcome to the board meeting. I'm going to ask Rolando Rodriguez to come up and say the pledge, and Tori Davis to come up and give our invocation.
Can everyone please bow their heads and close their eyes? Lord, I just want to say thank you for waking us up this morning and starting us on our way. I ask that you please allow the board members to have a clear mind while they make their decisions today. Thank you for just allowing us to live through you and allowing us to wake up every day just to please you, God. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you guys so much for coming and doing that for us. Okay, it does not appear that anyone signed up for public comment, so we will move on to item 4 on the agenda. Chancellor's administrative report will be first.
Thank you, Chair Colcourse, and good morning, everyone. What a wonderful day it is today. Trustees, I'd like to begin by giving you a facilities report update. This is regarding the construction projects that are taking place across the college district. At Prairie Lee Hall, the site work operations are approximately 88% complete, and the overall project is approximately 85% complete. Drywall, tape, texture, and interior painting is complete in buildings A and B, and the elevators have been installed. The flooring installation continues in the corridors and in the common areas. All the appliances have been installed in buildings A, and they're partially installed in building B. This project remains on schedule for substantial completion in June, with final completion scheduled for August the 4th. Now over to Leroy Dryer Field. At Leroy Dryer Field, the phased concrete pours are now ongoing. New plumbing lines have been insulated and stud wall framing is underway for the new restrooms on the concourse level. This project is scheduled for completion this coming September 2022. And at the old main building, the plaster wall repairs are underway and will be followed by painting. The installation of mechanical units and associated electrical work is underway. The restoration and repairs of the bell tower continue, and the bell has been removed and shipped for restoration. At the Bryan Campus Administration Building, a site survey and geotechnical investigation are underway, and demolition of the existing structures is nearing completion. This project is scheduled for completion in November of 2023. At the Rellis Campus Administration Building, the critical electrical component that was delayed last month has arrived, and it has been installed. Delays in the audiovisual components are being minimized and could be completed on schedule. The exterior masonry work is complete and the interior painting continues. Furniture and technology items have been ordered, and coordination with the executive deans and various user groups has begun in preparation for occupancy. Now, this project is scheduled for occupancy in this August, in advance of our fall 22 semester beginning. And at this time, I'd like to ask Chair Colcourse to come with me. Trustees, today we are joined by a wonderful employee who recently announced her retirement after 15 years of service to the Blinn College District. Erin Wilhite is now before us. Trustees, Erin joined Blinn in 2007 as an instructional design specialist, and then she became an instructor and business program coordinator in 2010. In 2014, she was named the Business and Computer Science Department head. And in 2018, she joined Blinn's marketing department as a graphic designer. Since 2019, she has served as an advisor and awards coordinator in the Academic Advising Department. Dr. Becky McBride, Vice Chancellor for Student Services, said that Erin's experience as an instructor and her passion for helping students succeed have made her a valuable member of the enrollment services team. Christy Reddick, graduation manager, said that Erin used her advanced computer skills to streamline Blinn's reverse transfer processes, and she was always willing to assist students who had questions about possible degrees. Erin, on behalf of the entire Blinn College family, the Board of Trustees, the administration, the faculty and the staff, and most importantly, the students, we thank you for the service that you have provided to this district, and we congratulate you on retirement and wish you nothing but the very best in your future transition to your next part of your life. Thank you for being here today. I know the trustees would like the opportunity to shake your hand and personally thank you. So trustees, if you would stand, please. And I'd like to ask Dr. Becky McBride to come forward, as well as our registrar, Christy Urban. And Erin, let's come to the front. There we go. Thank you. Erin, we have a little gift on behalf of the board that I know Chair Colkhorst would like to give you and say a few words.
Erin, we've got a watch for you here and a certificate for your time with Blinn. And, you know, all we can do is just say thank you for your time that you've given to Blinn and the service to our students.
Anything you would like to say while you're here this morning? Please.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the board and Chancellor Hensley for this opportunity to speak so that I could say some kind words about some people who've been very good to me. First of all, Marcelo for directing my church and his orchestra every year at Christmas and getting to sing with him. It's always been an honor, sir. Also to Michael Welch for hiring me, bringing me on, and Michael Schaefer for stealing me over to the academic side. Marie and Karen Buck for giving me a second chance when we had the SAC-SOX reaccreditation thing and bring me over to admissions. And thank you so much, Christy and Christy Johansson and Christy Reddock for helping me do the work I did there that was so fulfilling to help create more Blinn alumni by doing the reverse transfers. Thank you all so much for being here.
And congratulations, we're so proud of you. And now we're going to take a photo.
And 1, 2, 3. And just one more time. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you.
Trustees, I'm going to stay on this side of the podium if I might, because I have some more introductions that I would like to make. Trustees, I'm so excited. We are joined this morning by members of the women's Buccaneer basketball team. Last weekend, they won all 3 of their games at the Region 14 tournament to win the championship and to earn the team's first trip to nationals since 2016. The Buccaneers already have enjoyed an historic season that includes a 28-4 record and listen to this one, the program's first Region 14 regular season co-championship in the history of the program. So we're so excited about that. Well, the national tournament is going to take place at Trustee Ehlert's home place of Lubbock, Texas. It will be on March the 16th through the 21st in Lubbock, and it will be streamed live on the NJCAA network. On behalf of the Blinn administrative team, I would like to congratulate Athletic Director Scott Schumacher, Women's Basketball Coach Jeff Jenkins, and the 2022 Region 14 champion Blinn College Women's Basketball Team. I'd like at this opportunity to have Coach Jenkins come forward and say a few words if he would like, and then following that, we'll ask the whole team to come forward with the coaches and take a photo.
I just wanted to thank y'all for having us. We don't get to do this very often. It may be the first time I've ever done this, so we appreciate all y'all do for Blinn. I appreciate y'all working hard behind the scenes to give these young ladies a chance and a chance to get out and get a four-year degree. Blinn has helped a lot of women from the women's basketball team over the last 20 years that I've been here, and a lot of it's because of y'all, and we appreciate all you do. I know a lot of times you don't get to see their faces, but they're appreciative. And we also want to give Chancellor Dr. Hensley an autographed ball. It's our game ball and a card. The team was so impressed that she came to every single game. That does not happen very often. So it was very nice to have support from a leader of the college come and support us. And it meant a lot to our women.
And one. Yes, ma'am. And 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you.
Now I'd like to invite the entire team, Coach Jenkins and Athletic Director, Scott Schumacher, to come forward and we'll take a photo. And
Might have to get work to get it from.
That's maybe what we need to do. If the trustee stand behind.
If we can have the team take a couple of steps forward. Get me a bigger ladder. And 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. And just one more time. 1, 2, 3. Thanks, guys.
Trustees, they are such fine young ladies, and I'm just so honored to be able to say that they're a part of Blinn and represent us so beautifully when we play our different locations. Trustees, to continue my report, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Bellwether Award and have some people here today who are going to tell you a little bit more about it. As we shared this fall, the Blinn College District recently was recognized as a finalist for not one, but 2 prestigious Bellwether Awards in recognition of our innovative programs and practices. In the workforce development category, Blinn was selected as one of 10 finalists nationwide for our partnership with the Federal Bureau of Prisons and the Brazos County Detention Center to provide offender reentry training and to reduce inmate recidivism. In the instructional programs and services category, Blinn was recognized for our orientation course for students taking online courses, a program that was initiated by the FutureWorks Academy. Trustees, do you remember at our last meeting, we had members of the FutureWorks Academy from this year's participation join us for our meeting. So this program for the online orientation was originally thought up and created and developed and subsequently implemented by the fact that those individuals participated in the academy and came up with that idea. As finalists in the 2 Bellwether Award categories, Blinn sent representatives to the annual Community College Futures Assembly, February 27th and 28th in San Antonio to provide 1 hour, 60-minute presentations on each of these programs for which they were judged. And at this time, I would like to invite Jay Anderson, Vice Chancellor for Health Sciences, Technical Education, and Community Programs, and Dr. Marcelo Basicki, Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, to share additional details regarding both programs and also introduce the members of the presentation teams who are in attendance today.
Good morning, Chair Colcourse, Dr. Hensley, trustees. I'd like to take just a moment to acknowledge the other team members. We have Dr. Charles Smith, who's joining us by Zoom. I also have Assistant Dean Marshall Rich, who is presenting on the team. You'll be hearing from him as well today. The section that I presented was titled Critical Issue. I'll give some background on critical issue and then we'll transition over to Mr. Rich, followed by Dr. Smith. The critical issue, correctional recidivism. Recidivism is measured by criminal acts that resulted in rearrest, reconviction, or return to prison. I would like to share some pressing facts. Lack of education creates an additional barrier to reentry. Nearly 70% of the U.S. incarcerated population is functioning at the lowest literacy rates, and only 32% of those in state prisons have received high school diploma. 81% of prisoners aged 24 or younger at release in 2012 were rearrested within 5 years of their release. Prisons are unlikely to reduce reoffending unless they can be transformed into people-changing institutions on the basis of available evidence on what works organizationally to reform offenders. This is exactly the mission in the partnership between Blinn College District and the correctional facilities. Challenges associated with having a criminal record come at a great cost to the U.S. economy. Estimates put the cost of employment losses among people with criminal records at as much as $65 billion per year in terms of gross domestic product. A key point, those who participated in vocational training were 28% more likely to find employment upon release. As a result, multiple studies have concluded that increased investments in post-secondary programming and services for people in prison would result in hundreds of millions of dollars in cost savings per year through reduced recidivism and increased workforce productivity. The Blinn College Partnership delivers employability skill sets to assist in prevention of recidivism. Mr. Rich, I'll transition to you.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Anderson. Good morning, Chairman Colcourse, Chancellor Hensley, and trustees. For my part of the Bellwether presentation, I helped cover what Blinn is doing to address recidivism and the outcomes of our endeavors. We shared how research shows those with higher levels of education have lower rates of recidivism, a timeline of our federal prison programming showing how we have scaled the program over the last 20 years, and how we've replicated the program by starting a new partnership at the Brazos County Detention Center. Most importantly, I was able to share data from the federal prison camp that shows students who graduated from Blinn's program have a recidivism rate of 5.27%, which is significantly lower than their peers' national average of 36.4%. And early data from those who have completed Blinn's programming at the Brazos County Detention Center have a recidivism rate of 17%, again, significantly lower than their peers' average of 76.6%. Since 2002, Blinn has graduated over 1,000 students through our Second Chance program. Charles Smith, Dean of Business and Mathematics, will now share his part on lessons learned. Charles, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much, Marshall. And good morning to Dr. Hensley and the board. We have at Blinn College have provided educational opportunities for offenders for almost 20 years. During that time, our experience have taught us many lessons on how to run an effective correctional education program. One of those lessons is to have dedicated resources, hire dedicated faculty and administrative staff to support the program. Another lesson is to have open and timely communication with the correctional facility at all times. Flexibility. It is important to be flexible. Lack of available technology, shutdown, lockdowns, and holidays all have the ability to create complications in administering the educational program. Selection criteria for participants. It is important to work with the federal prison camp to help select offenders who are able to commit to stand in the program for its duration and who meets the minimum academic requirement set by Blinn College. Interdepartmental collaboration. Collaboration within the college with departments such as student services and academic affairs is very important for the success of the program. These departments provide services such as in-person testing, manual processing of application, manual enrollment, and manual graduation paperwork. These are just a few of the lessons learned that we shared with the colleges at the conference. I will now turn it over to Dr. Posiki to present their project.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Let me see here. Chair Course, Dr. Hensley, members of the board. Today I have with me Dr. Joyce Langenegger, Executive Director for Academic Success, and Functional Analyst Lillian Marshall. And we will give you an overview of our project, our second Bellwether finalist, which is called Orienting Students to Success. Dr. Langenegger.
Thank you, Dr. Basicki, Chancellor Hensley, Chair Colcourse, and members of the board. I'm really excited to talk to you today about our Ecampus student orientation. We use this to train our students in the use of our learning management system. And the learning management system is the platform on which we house all of our online course content. Many of the students who come to us actually come to us technologically underprepared. And even students who have the knowledge need some training on how to use the software. We are seeing an increase in the number of students taking online courses, so this becomes an even more critical issue. Unfortunately, many of the students who are underprepared are also economically disadvantaged and also are more likely to be African American or Latino. During the COVID crisis, we really saw the problems with that digital divide that's been created because we had all of these students who had to suddenly transition to an online learning environment. In creating the project, and as we shared in San Antonio, we had really four main purposes. Two of them were really focused on building technological skills for our students and building confidence in their use of technology, as well as increasing their use of the tools. And what we know is if students know how to use the system or believe they know how to use the system, they'll actually do that. And that's critical in their success in online courses. Approximately 26,000 students have completed this training to this point in time. And about 95% of them tell us they have confidence in their ability to use the eCampus system. We are very excited about this success because at the end of the day, it's all about our students and their success and moving them across the digital divide. And now Lillian Marshall will share with you some of our successful outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Good morning, Dr. Hensley, Chair Colcourse, and members of the board. In my portion of the presentation at the Bellwether Assembly, I discussed the data outcomes we have observed related to the online student orientation since its implementation in fall 2019. Overall success for students taking the orientation has steadily increased, and students completing the orientation outperformed students who did not by 12.6 percentage points in spring 2021. Not only have we observed increased student success for students in online and blended courses, but success has increased for students taking traditional face-to-face courses as well. Also worth noting is economically disadvantaged students who took our training outperformed those who did not by 16.5% percentage points in spring 2020, which shows that our orientation helps level the playing field among our students and gives the economically disadvantaged students an edge over students who did not face the same technological challenges. And I will turn it over to Dr. Busicki. Thank you.
Thank you, Lillian. Trustees, one of the key criteria to be selected as a finalist or a winner of the Bellwether Award is its replicability. Therefore, the last section of our presentation, I discussed the lessons that we learned and what institutions that intend to implement this project needs to observe in the course of that process. I shared with them our lessons and divided in four, discussed in detail, the institutional lessons, which essentially is the support that the upper administration needs to give to a project like this, such as we had here with Dr. Hensley. The design lessons, which essentially deals more specifically about the intricacies of the course itself. The implementation lessons, which are the processes in which you need to have established so that the students are actually benefiting from that. And the ongoing lesson, which boils down to you implement, you observe, you change, and you implement again, and you always have this continuous improvement of that. I concluded, excuse me, I concluded my presentation with an argument as to why our program was worthy of consideration and the benefit that it had brought to our students. I want to say that I was very honored. We were all very honored to be there with the entire nation, multiple community colleges in the entire nation. And I firmly believe that we were very close, very close to get this elusive prize that we've been trying to get. So we were in the right way. We're getting there. And again, I want to thank you for the opportunity to share this with you, with the board. And we would like to open for questions to either one of the two groups. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Well, thank you, Dr. Busicki, and thank you, Vice Chancellor Anderson, and thank you to your wonderful teams. It was a joy to be with you. Trustees, look at the caliber of the faculty, staff, and students at Blinn College. They are amazing, and I just stand in awe of them every single day. What a joy it is to work with you. But today is really special. You saw 3 opportunities to put Blinn on the national forefront. So congratulations to Coach Jenkins. Our ladies will be playing next week for the national championship. And then among all of the community college in the entire United States, Blinn has 2 teams in 2 categories that becomes a finalist for this very prestigious award. So again, thank you all so very much. I'm so glad that you could have the opportunity to share what you've done with our trustees. And at this time, I'll return the podium back to Chair Colquist as this completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. I did have one quick question on the recidivism part. I know we've been doing teaching in the prisons for many years. Curious about how does one, I know you mentioned that they have to have a certain grade potential, or how do they get selected to be in that program? I think that is really important work that we do.
That's a very good question, Chair Colcourse, and thank you for that question. The internal process of selection and the vetting is essentially managed by the correctional facility to make sure it's a good fit with the potential offender. They go over, as the case with the health science related program, they talk about the opportunities that may or may not exist with those individuals because of a criminal record. Advising the inmates of the hiring and potential hiring processes of the human resources once these individuals are released. On the trade side, the individuals are advised of what they will be accomplishing and the competencies and skill sets that they'll be practicing as an alignment with the workforce when they're released. So it's an internal vetting process.
Okay, great. Anyone else have any questions?
Mr. Chair, just a question, Mr. Anderson, I'm pretty intrigued about what you're doing here. Has there ever been any thought about taking this maybe down to the local jail levels and things of that nature to get these, I guess you could say, the first-time offenders, talking to them about what opportunities are out there for them and things of that nature? I think that could make it even better by trying to incorporate some of the local jails.
Thank you for the question, Chair Bokart. And yes, we are always looking for expansion opportunities with our constituents, any of the stakeholders that work with our correctional facilities. We've got this project in place. As Dr. Basecki mentioned, we're looking at scalability and repeatability, and this is something that we would like to expand with.
And just another thing, it might even be something that would possibly be utilized by the probationary officers within cities and towns as well.
Absolutely. And we'd like to have those stakeholders at the table while we were looking at these expansion opportunities and continued discussions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Great. Anyone else have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I would think that it would be appropriate for the trustees to give these two groups a standing ovation for doing a heck of a job.
I agree.
And I'm wondering, Rich, if you could come back and if we could take each team forward now for a photo opportunity. At the national conference, they did take official photos, but they haven't sent them to us yet. So we'd like to go ahead and get one. So let's start with Jay's group first. And Charles, I know you were, I don't know if we can get it with a camera with you or we can clip our.
Don't worry about it.
But is there a way to do that, Rich, where we could be by the TV so we could get, or is that going to get a reflection? Photoshop him in?
We can take a photo by
All right, let's try that just for fun. And then we'll do one over here in case it doesn't come out because there may be some flash recoil. Thank you.
Are y'all gonna sit right there? Or stand? In front of us or behind us? Okay. Okay. You are smarter than the average bear.
All right, I'll count to three, and 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Thanks.
Is there anyone else who wants to get a picture with us?
I think there's another group. I think this one gets to be here.
And 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Perfect, thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to have their picture taken?
Okay, we will now move on to item 4B in the agenda, the presentation of financial statement package for the period ending February 28, 2022. And I think Mr. Richard Cervantes is going to give that to us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Hensley, members of the board. Yes, it's a hard act to follow. I've got people involved in sports that have done very well, and then the Bellwether. But I will be available for a picture later on if anybody would like that, just in case. So, Mr. Chairman, we are through the month of February, which is what this report is about, halfway through the fiscal year. Our revenue to date through February is $81 million. Our expenses, almost $59 million, which leaves us a net, very healthy net of $22 million. A good portion of all of that, the revenue and the net, is associated with our HERF money. That $12.7 million, $12 million of it is from the federal funds. When we compare to last year at the same period of time, our revenues are up $3.6 million, again, largely because of HERF. And our expenses are also up almost $6 million. Our net increase in fund balance is less than what we had last year, $2.2 million less, but again, very, very healthy for where we're at right now. When we compare our tuition and fees actual revenue to our budget, we budgeted $69.2 million. We are currently at 43 million, which is 62% of the way through. Our audit district is, tuition revenue is down by $386,000. Audit district represents the bulk of that, all of it actually. The fee revenue is also down a little bit over $1 million. The biggest 70% of that is in the lab course fees, where we had charged distance ed, and since everybody's returned back to campus, there's less students that are taking those virtual courses, so that's brought that one down. I want to pause a little bit since Jay is in the room. You can see the workforce is down by slightly down. A big portion of that, I would say about 90% of that, is a timing issue related to last year, not so much this year. We'd added $190,000 to last year's revenue that has not been included in this year. So he's closing the gap. Our housing and food service revenue, the actual versus budget, we budgeted $11.1 million to date through February, 5.5. million, almost 50% of the way through. Our auxiliary service revenue is up $1.1 million, 20%. The bulk of that is parking. About 70% of that is in the parking. Again, as students have returned to campus, we've been able to receive that revenue. You might recall, Mr. Chairman, you asked me, I think a couple of months back about the bookstore revenue. That's the one directly to the left of that. And you can see we've made that up. Our total expenses are up $5.8 million. A big portion of that is the debt service, $2.1 million. We're going to make another debt payment at the beginning of next month that will add to that. And then our E&G expenses, we keep saying that our travel and our consumables and the expenses are up as our staff and our students have returned to campus. Payroll expense as a percentage of the revenue dollar is fluctuating around 49%. Eventually, we think that will get up closer to 60%, but you can see the consistency there throughout the years. Our debt service, Mr. Moser, continues to come down. Last month, we were at 9.5%, so now we're at a little bit, 8.5%, pretty close. We still believe that we'll be down to less than 7% by the end of the fiscal year. Our expense comparison by category, and this includes all of our expenses, we're up 11%. And a big portion of that, again, is the the E&G expenses or students and faculty have returned. But you can see we included R&R in this budget this year that we didn't have in there last year, and the debt service is up. Our operating expense comparison is up by 6%. The only difference there I'd say would be on the auxiliary side is up. And that's because they're having more athletic events this year than what they had last year, as well as our cost for food service has gone up as students have returned. So our student cash and refunds in February, in February, $10.3 million. A substantial amount of that is what we received from the Department of Education, that's the bubble at the top, $15 million. But we issued student refunds of almost $8 million, a little bit over $8 million. And we received student payments a little bit over $3 million. Our other cash receipts in February are $2.2 million. We do not receive a state appropriation in February, so you can see the zero there. Our bond fund drawdowns as we used our construction activity continues. We reimburse ourselves. And then our use of cash is up. A big portion of that that's different from what we normally have is the construction at the top, the $2.7 million. So in summary, we received from students $10.3 million, from other sources another 2.2, but we used $11.9 million, which left us through the month of February, $655,000 increase, and that is in our bank. Another watershed moment, Mr. Chairman. We are now over $140 million. Last month, we were a shade under $140 million. The funding available, you can see the Blinn blue on the right, almost $26 million. Continues to creep up a little bit, and we think it's going to go up a little bit more. You also see on the far left, almost in the middle there, the April bond payment that I was suggesting we set that money aside, $1.9 million that we'll make at the beginning of next month. Our higher education emergency relief funds on both sides of student awards, as well as the institutional strengthening, those have been received and fully spent. The institutional funding right now, I believe we have almost $5 million that's remaining on that. We know a couple $1 million out of that is going to be used for our HVAC. We've had some discussion with Mr. O'Malley and his group to spend a little bit more of that before the end of the fiscal year. We also look like we've got an extension on some of this money. The federal government's come back and said they're going to take it through next year. They still haven't given us any definition of what that means other than the timing has been changed. Our goal is still to use this up before the end of the fiscal year, and it may be close, but we may have a little bit left over. This is how we've spent our money. Not too much. You can see the Blinn blue on the side. The $4.9 million is what we have left. I stand for any questions.
Any questions? Thanks so much, Mr. Fontes.
Thank you.
Okay, we are now going to move into item 5 on the agenda, consent items. All items listed in this portion of the agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Trustees and will be enacted upon one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a trustee so requests, in which event the item will be removed from consent and considered in discussion and possible action. Trustees received agenda materials in advance of the meeting to prepare for the business to be conducted. We will be approving minutes of February 15th and the ratification of employee contracts for executive council committees for fiscal year 22-23. Looking for a motion? Been motion by Mr. Mosier, second by Mr. Wells. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. Okay, now we will move into item 6, discussion and possible action items. We will go to 6A, approval of tuition and fees for fiscal year 22-23. Mr. Cervantes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a condensed form of the presentation that we made last month, first to the BAIF and then later on to the board. For those of you that were not present, for the most part, what we've eliminated, the scaled back is the typical historical portion of it. I think we have one slide that shows what we have done historically, but for the most part, we've removed most of those, almost all of those. A big part of our strategy that we talked about is that we are taking a little bit more risk than what we've done before in putting together this budget. But we have a backstop, and that's that $26 million there in the Blinn blue. We don't, by any stretch of the imagination, expect that we will need all of that, obviously, but a sort of having it there does give a sense of comfort. So, mentioned the history. So this is the history. Does not include what we're doing, but it does demonstrate. See if I can get this cursor to work. It does demonstrate that we're very similar to what we've done before in terms of our recommendation. So we are recommending for in-district that there will be a $2 increase. You can see we certainly have done that over the years. The out-of-district, we're recommending a $3 increase. We did that between 20 and 21. The non-resident, we're recommending a $1 increase. We certainly have done that before. And then the general fee, we're recommending a $3 increase, and there's a couple instances where we've done that even recently. So very similar to what we have proposed before. Today, or at least as far as this slide is concerned, it's also something that we've shown the board before. We have indicated a 1% salary increase. We're not going to be making recommendations today about the cost. These are just placeholders that we have in there so that we construct how much revenue that we will need to be able to cover some of the budget that will move away. Still, I would like to point out to the board a couple things on the cost side. In particular, you can see the expenditure reduction. So we had a really healthy discussion last month on how we were coming up with some of these numbers and what the burden would be to the students. And what I want to share with the board is that we are very cognizant of that. And we do what we can to make sure that we lessen that pain. We are now at historic inflation numbers, haven't had this in over 40 years. We're over 7%. And as we've seen recently, those percentages are probably going to go up, at least in the short run. We're still hopeful in the long run that they go down. But what this is showing, Mr. Chairman, is that the administration is taking a position to try to not just raise revenue, but to decrease our cost. So we're talking about $1.6 million at least if we are able to ultimately go to a 4% increase. You can also see almost $4.5 million that's coming off of our budget. At least the $3.5 million of it will be paid out of that unrestricted if we need it. So again, it shows the college is taking a position not just to shoulder all of the burden on students, but also taking a responsibility in itself. I mentioned that, so our increases that we're recommending is $2 for in-district, $3 for out-of-district, $1 for out-of-state, and $3 in general fee. That will net us an approximate increase in revenue, almost $2.5 million. If I look at that area alone, with the inflation rate being at 7% as it is now, that is about 3.5%. So again, it shows the college is taking a position to shoulder some of that burden and to take some of the risk associated with continued increases in inflation. Technology fee is a little bit different than over the last about 3 years ago, we introduced the technology fee, but we were charging specifically for those students that were taking any form of distance education. And we were charging $25 a course. So what we're recommending is to reduce that $25 a course to $18 a course, $6 a semester credit hour. But at the same time, it's a fee that we will charge every student. And what we've learned over the last year and a half, as we've offered some of these classes virtually, that this is a process, a component of the academic process that we would like to continue to have that virtual capability, not only to test, but in case a student misses a class, that they can come in, or a faculty member is able to come in virtually too. So there's some advantages there, but instead of just charging the distance ed student, it will be charged to all students. Typical increases in housing and food service. I'll explain how that ends up being a reduction of revenue for housing. Again, certainly much lower than the 7% that we're seeing out there. And I will add, food service costs are going up even much greater than that, at least at this juncture. So it shows how we arrived at the $2.5 million. Again, just to reiterate for those of you that were not able to be at the meeting last month, one of the things that we've changed is we use the semester credit hours, not from the typically what we use is last year's numbers, the number of credit hours, and then we multiply it times the new rate. This year we went further back to pre-COVID, and we did, so that number is higher. We had more credit hours back in 2020 than what we've had in the last couple of years. So we did that. It raised it up a little bit. It's a little bit of risk associated with that. It also, from our perspective, includes an aspiration to get back to where we were pre-COVID. Our proposed housing rates, these include a few different objectives. One, again, is the inflation is a part of it, to realign the rates with similar sort of housing rooms, space that we have in other dorms. And then we also recognize from this one, too, you see the deficit down there on the bottom, the estimated revenue decrease. That's because our intentions are to take 3 dorms offline as the new dorm from Prairie Lea comes on. We were able to visit with Servitas, and they were give us these prices at $3,250 a semester. One of the other objectives that we have is, and have continued to have over the years, is that there is a menu of options that are available to students. And I think this continues that trend. The prices are all going up just like everything else is, but the students will still have an option there that they've always had. Our proposed meal plan rates will net us another $700,000. You can see the number of plans that have jumped up as a result of the Prairie Lea housing. So, but we're not budgeting 100% of this 1989. We'll budget in the 80s. And typically in the past, we budgeted more, but what we've seen is that housing occupancy has gone down. So we budgeted this one a little bit more conservatively. Our parking and technology, we are adding another $5 per semester for parking. So this is a full year. This is a full year as opposed to this one would just be if somebody came in the spring and we're not here in the fall and didn't purchase the full amount, they will pay $140, which is $5 more. And then the bottom one has the technology that we just spoke about a little bit ago. The rest of these are pass-through cost, health science fees. And then this is a program that's working pretty well. It's another area where the college offers another option for students. They can opt in or they can opt out, but this program's saving 20% of the price of books that are in this program, 25% in some cases. So we're doing whatever we can to lower the cost to our students by some of these actions that you're taking today. And then we've removed a couple of course fees. One of them is the test is no longer being offered. That's the top one. And then the last one is that class is no longer even being offered. So that concludes my presentation, Mr. Chairman. I will stand for any questions.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to clarify on one thing. On the technology, it's per credit hour. That's on the last page. Per credit hour, $6.
$6 per credit, semester credit hour. That's correct.
And anything that was on campus previously has not had that fee, only the online classes.
That's correct. That's the change that's being taken, as well as the technology will continue to go. We'll apply it. There are more and more faculty that are requesting this, and we know the students are benefiting from it too, to be able to access the classroom remotely in those cases where they're not able to come to class.
So that is, okay, it's 3 times greater than the tuition increase of the $2 per in district.
It's, maybe it's the way you look at it, is the glass half full or half empty? There are winners and losers, I will concede that. Students that were taking distance ed classes, all
benefit,
100%,
yeah.
they're going to come down, and then it's going to go up the opposite for others. Yeah, but
I
they will benefit from the technology also.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Couple things. You remember last time I made a few comments related to how much can our students continue to bear. I just did a little research based upon our financial statements in 2010, which was the first year that I served on this board. We had a total of $61.5 million that came from tuition and fees, state appropriation, and property taxes. At that time, 52% of that income came from our students. And based upon our 2021 annual report, which the total of those three was almost $95 million, $60.7 million was from tuition and fees, 31.9% was from state appropriations. What we have over that period of time is a 22% increase in tuition and fees and a 26% decrease in funding from the state appropriations. And so in 2021, our students were paying 64% of that total. And that's getting pretty close to 2/3. So I am concerned about how much more we can put on the back of students going forward. And additionally, you know, I think, I'm not sure if I got this number right, but I think the numbers that you are projecting are based on 2020 hours. Is that correct?
Correct. The budget is based on the pre-COVID.
Okay, well, then the Texas Association of Community Colleges published a fall 2021 preliminary enrollment report. And our fall preliminary enrollment says that there's 16,880 students. I know that's not the same as ours, but you would think that that would reduce that too, whereas in 2020, we had 17,955. So, I don't know where our actual fall enrollment ended up. But I guess I'm just concerned about what we might be able to do to put less burden on our students going forward. Because we're already seeing, I do agree that other community colleges are experiencing declines in enrollment as well. But I just have a genuine concern that we could potentially be pricing ourselves out of a business. So.
Dennis. Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on you, Douglas, and I appreciate your statements. I feel the same way. I think we're continually adding more and more to the students. Now, when I look at this at the end of at the thing that we got in OneNote, when it talks about the different rankings of in-district and out-of-district fees, this administration keeps comparing our in-district and out-of-district fees to other schools. And I think what we really need to be looking at, and I'm going to tie this back to the end of what Douglas just said, our out-of-district fees, and I guess this is for a full-time student, is tuition and fees is $22.68. I think what we really need to compare that to is the in-district cost for folks from like Lone Star, Austin Community College, and HCC. So I really believe that's part of what of our tuition decline, enrollment decline is because we're competing against Lone Star in-district cost with our out-of-district cost. Lone Star's in-district cost is $1,080. So a student living in Bryan College Station could either take Blinn classes for $22.68 or take those exact same courses online from Lone Star College, pay in district since they're from that area for $1,080. I think that has something to do with our enrollment declines. And so I think we're pricing ourselves out of the market. And I think Douglas is right on that. So.
Could I comment? I'm trying to show a slide, but apparently it's not coming up. So we did do some work to see what the potential impact would be, and those are both good comments. I think it is something that we share the concern. It's just that the evidence doesn't quite support that. And so here's the premise of what I'm going to try to show here. To what extent will tuition and fee increases or no increases have an effect on enrollment? So you can see in 21 and 22, in 22, 8 of the largest enrollment schools in the state kept their prices the same. And of those 8, they're highlighted. And of those 8 on the right, you will see the increases, the effect of increases in enrollment. There 4 of the 8 had decreases in enrollment. 4 of the other 8 had increases in enrollment. But if you look at why they are having the increases in enrollment, they're having it for a reason other than the price. The reason why they're having it is Dallas County is a good one. Look at the second row there. Dallas County the year before had over a 20% decrease in enrollment. So it's not a surprise that the next year they were able to increase their enrollment by 7.5%. Not one of these schools, including Blinn, pre-COVID have been able to get back to where they need to be. Not one of them. Every one of them has a decline in enrollment. So is it price? I mean, I think it's one of the factors, but there are a host of reasons, Mr. Chairman, why students choose the school that they want to go. Their friends go there. Their boyfriend, girlfriends, I've experienced that one with my daughter, go there. They want to get to Texas A&M. We can't escape the fact that we have an academic rigor here that seems to be attractive to students, and their parents went here. Or they have programs here, football, basketball, that they get to experience. So there's a lot of reasons besides price. I maintain what this tells me, more than anything else, is we're not out of the COVID factor yet for any of these schools, including Blinn. In fact, if you look at all 50 of the schools in the state of Texas, there's only a handful of them that have come back pre-COVID.
With all due respect, Mr. Cervantes, I would say that all 10 of those first ones that you're talking about have very little out-of-district enrollment. Most of those schools have in-district enrollment. So again, that's what we have to be comparing ourselves to.
I think that's something that I've looked at too. I can't disagree with that. What I would disagree with is at this point that it's had an impact on us that's any different than any of the other factors that are out there right now. Now, things could change. You're right. I mean, if all of a sudden we increase our prices by 50%, what's going to happen then? But I think the likelihood actually is for next year that those top 10 are going to end up increasing some of their prices from what they saw last year. Now, here's the advantage that they have that the college does not have. They have their tax revenue. We just don't have that. And so if we're wrestling with a dilemma. We know costs are going to continue to go up. We see the inflation rate. If we continue, if we say, well, let's keep our revenue down, we're going to have another mechanism to be able to substantiate or to cover the expenses that we're going to continue to have. The presentation that I made was that I think the college is doing a good job of that. I think what we're doing is we're cutting our costs too. We're doing whatever we can to shoulder the burden. We know there's a risk associated with what's going to happen in the fall. We're hoping that inflation comes down. Right now, the world is changing and gas prices are going up. So who knows how all that is going to work out, but we're shouldering some of the risk associated with it. I still maintain at the end of the day, if we take a position where we say, let's hold steady, that at some point you're going to come back and say, now we got all those costs that we're going to have to cover and you're going to have to double your prices.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
a couple quick observations. One is that whenever you're looking at something like this, you got to deal with cost benefit analysis. So you have to ask the question, if a taxpayer, anybody asks us, why are we raising taxes? I mean, why are we raising tuition? I think that you have to look at a couple of things because every junior college is unique in a certain respect. What we saw in today's meeting is that Blinn is a perfect blend of the 3 A's, academics, athletics, and arts. I was at the symphony piece on Sunday night, and we got 10 kids going to state and top level folk. So in terms of being able to communicate to the general public why we bring something distinctive and unique as it relates to that. I think also going back to Trustee Melcher's comment at the last board meeting, we definitely don't want to not provide educational opportunities to people in our community, particularly the most marginal and disadvantaged. But that's why Susan Myers and her team do such a great job of supplying academic supplements in the form of scholarships and stuff like that. The other thing is that COVID has impacted us where we have provided infrastructure and investment in our campus that makes us even more attractive because really the 6th campus on here should have been our online campus because that's one of the fastest growing places in terms of enrollment in the COVID deal. And the last thing I would say is that still at the cost to be able to do your first 2 years in college at Blinn and then do your last 2 years of college at A&M, to do an A&M degree, spend your first 2 years playing Blinn prices versus A&M prices, that says a lot. So I agree with both Trustee Crowson and Trustee Bohart that we really need to be very intentional how we communicate this if we decide to go with it. But I believe there's enough benefit in the cost benefit analysis to say, this is why we need to be able to make the decision because ultimately it makes Blinn better.
Trustee Ballard.
One other comment I'd like to make is I recently saw in the Texas Tribune that for the first time since the 1990s, the public universities' total enrollment exceeds that of the community colleges in the state of Texas. So I think there might be even a bigger issue going here. Why are they apparently migrating in the same environment we're living in now? Why do they appear to be migrating more to public universities, which are 4-year so I'm not, you're saying I'm saying on one side, well, we're raising it too much, but it looks like they're bypassing community colleges and going straight to community colleges just based on that article. So I think there may be a bigger elephant in the room than just community colleges, so.
I'd just make a comment, you guys make great points. But I think it's apparent that, likely wages are going to go up, insurance is going to go up. I think 3% on the food costs is very low compared to what actual costs are going to be. So, if we did decide not to do an increase, we were intentionally agreeing that we're going to lower the amount of money that Blinn would make this next year for sure. It looks like, based on your information, it's almost a wash, based on increased cost to what we're going to be bringing in. So it didn't look like it necessarily raises Blinn additional money, but it does at least hold off the amount of additional cost that we would incur.
Mr. Chairman, it's a tough question. I mean, we go, I've weighed this every year but you also have to, if we don't look at this revenue stream as the tuition issue, then we need to, as a group, we need to find some other alternatives to do what needs to be done to maintain our facilities and increase our abilities to keep up with the educational needs of our students in the future. It's not an easy, it's not an easy deal, but without it, to keep our tax rate where it is and your point is well taken. The state's participation has been limited. It's certainly not increasing. So, where do we go from there? That's, what other, I think we'd all be happy to hear some other sources. I do think also, and I've read and I know we're looking at, we have a vast, as Reverend Wells said, we have a pretty vast program for scholarships, and not very, a lot of our students, a bulk of our students get some sort of a break on their tuition, some shape or form. And I think there's maybe more coming along that line that may be available. And so I think that, it's a tough deal. Now, I will say this, and I say this with all due respect, but I had one of our guy that was on this board for nearly a half a century told me that he never had anybody come and complain about tuition. Never one time in 43 years did he have anybody come and say, you shouldn't increase my tax. So and I'm not saying that to take light of what we're advocating here, because it is serious business and we need to be, but if we're not going to do that, if we're not going to increase tuition, or if that's a position we want to take, then we've got to come up with other alternatives, I think. And that's our responsibility. That's not, I think we need to do more than just say, that's not a good idea, we're not going to do that. Then what are we going to do? And I've not heard anybody come up with, I mean, there's only one way, I learned at the Sam Houston School of Business, there's only one way you either got to raise your revenue or you got to cut your costs. If you're going to have a progressive business or institution. And that's going to be a tough deal. I mean, if we don't generate more revenue.
and our student enrollment has been, what concerns me, and Douglas, you've touched on it too, and is this distant learning. I don't know where, where is that gonna, what effect is that gonna have for us long term? I think there's issues there, and the COVID has made people change their lifestyles a lot, and will it really come back? I don't know. We've got a nice new dorm over there that we got to put some folks in. So, and so it's a tough call. I know, I understand that, but I don't know what we do to keep, we've got, the college needed so many new facilities that we've been able to do. I think we've been really tried to work well with our staff and our faculty, and we've tried to make that a progressive in a situation where they want to be and where the students want to be. Now, while we've kind of hit a roadblock the last couple of years with this COVID, but I'm looking, what's the alternatives? I don't know.
Mr.
Trustee
Chairman.
Yes, yes, sir.
That's one question. It was stated, but I want to clear and one observation, because also this too impacts our master plan, because the world is changing, and we're hearing from Dr. Becky McBride that there's a shifting in how students want to be educated. That's a working, living, breathing document.
Right.
And there may be some shifts that can also alter this economic deal. But I thought I heard you say something about an increase in salaries at a certain percentage. Did you say 1% of that? Did you say?
1% is $500,000. We're not proposing
Yeah.
that today,
But
but
I want to go on
our,
record.
our placeholder is about 4%. So
Okay, I want to go on record with something with that. And again, today's board meeting was a clear indication of the excellence in education that Blinn is demonstrating. And I said this when I was blessed to be on the board initially, almost 3.5 years ago. You can't tell me you care about students and you don't care about the people who take care of the students. We've seen people retire every week at these board meetings. One of the most expensive costs to any business or institution is employee turnover. We got to take care of the people who take care of the students. So when we look at it, if we decide to do that, we really need to look at that and look at that in contrast to what do our salaries look like in comparison to other universities. Because I don't think it's fair for us to be number one in all of this stuff, but then be here in terms of salary. So I just wanted to put that on the record.
Trustee Binky, did you have a question or comment?
Well, I just wanted to make sure that I knew what we were actually looking at per student. If they're taking 12 credit hours, we would see an in-district tuition increase of $2 per hour, plus a $6 per hour technology fee. It looks like $10 extra for parking. That would be $106. Then there was something on the general fee, and I'm not 100% sure how much that changed, but we're looking at less than $150 per student if they're taking 12 hours. And if they were taking 15 hours, it would be 120 on the tuition and technology. In the whole scheme of a 4-month semester, I don't think that that's going to be something that deters them. I see a lot of, and maybe it's because I was here in the public school, a great benefit, many of the students that I've talked to, great benefit of going to A&M and the difference. And I have a student now at A&M who was here and took credit here, and the difference in the amount we're being charged is tremendous. I think for most of our students, 150 or less in a semester is not going to deter them from being here. And I'm afraid if we don't raise, and then we have to because of so many costs, everything, when you go to the grocery store or the gas station, everything is going up. I'm afraid that we may get into a situation where next year there will be no can we, it's we have to, and it may be far worse than this. So don't know.
Well, and one of the things I'd talked to Dr. McBride about is the last 2 years, they haven't been able to go out into schools and recruit and that kind of thing. So hopefully, the scholarships that we were talking about, we have so vast amount there. I'm just concerned and wondering if we are letting students know that. And I know now that you can go into the schools, you have a better opportunity of letting them know all the scholarship opportunities that we have here. So not that that's going to help with the expenses on our end, but it will help the students know that there are things, there is money out there. It's a matter of letting them know that it's out there. Because I feel like just my own kids in public school, as you said, a lot of times they don't know that those opportunities are out there as far as helping fund their education.
I believe we had Burton Independent School District here on campus yesterday, didn't we? So that's great. Okay, well,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
yes, say one final thing.
yes, sir.
I think this is something that we really need to study and go forward. I'm not necessarily saying that I'm going to vote against this, but I'm saying is we need to get a better handle on it. And I think if you consider, and another reason I'm feeling that something maybe needs to be adjusted, that is year after year after year over the last, I think, 5 years, is we've had excess funds that are building up our cash reserves. So to say that we're not meeting our expenses is based on the numbers we're getting is we are actually receiving additional revenue above and beyond what is need to assist these kids in getting an education. So at some point, there needs to be a balance there, is what I'm saying. So.
How much is enough is what you're saying. Yeah. But at the same time, you know, it's important, excuse me, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
sir. Mr. Mosier.
It's important from the standpoint of financing and doing the things that we've done, that we have to have the cash, because again, we can't pledge a tax rate to do any kind of, you know, deficit financing. So again, I agree. I mean, I think there's a good discussion on all of these.
And if I chimed in, COVID, with its devastating effect, if there was one blessing that came out of it, was the monopoly money in terms of the HERF funds that's allowing us to do infrastructure developing. The same board member that you talked about, whose name's on the 3rd floor of our Sty building. When I came on the board, I said, when you started college, what building did you take your science classes in? He said, the one that they're taking science classes in right now. You're not going to attract 21st century students in the building that Edward Conjura went in. And now we have a state-of-the-art building. That's one of the most beautiful buildings in all of Brenham, Texas. And then also, if you're going to continue, if we truly have a commitment to our holistic sports program, football, basketball, you're not getting another Cam Newton to live in Solis. He ain't coming, not transferring from the University of Florida. So part of what the HERF funds have done that eventually are going to go away, it's allowed us to catch up with our facilities to truly be a 21st century junior college that makes it easier on recruiting team and marketing team to be able to say, come look at where you're going to see these drones flying around in the building. That money's gone away, but it's positioning us for that when we go into this new normal, we can compete. I was just at Lone Star yesterday. I spoke at the school deal. Man, the bells and whistles, I felt like I was in a Star Trek deal with all the stuff around it. We got to step up if we're going to compete. So that's my final observation.
Very good. Thanks for everyone for your thoughts and your comments. The recommendation before us is that the board approve tuition and fees for fiscal year 22-23. I'm looking for a motion. Rebecca Ehlert moves.
I'll second it.
Trustee Wells, second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, trustees.
Can I make one other comment? I'm gonna get the last word, Mr. Webb. But probably not to Mr. Bohar, but to you. But no, really, I want to say this too, and I think it bears saying that the board has supported, in the 6 years I've been on here, we have supported the administration and the staff in doing everything that is needed or been asked for in regard to trying to make our campus better, making our school better, and supporting our staff. So I think that needs to be said, that we have done that. And I just think it needs to be acknowledged that there's been a tremendous amount accomplished in this last 5, 6, 10 years. And so we just need to keep moving forward. And somehow we just need to get a few more students in here. That's what we need to do. And hopefully we've got a plan for that.
I think they're going to come. I feel good about it. Okay, moving on to item 6B, authorization for the administration to negotiate and execute contracts for general contractor services and audio-visual contractor services related to the Esports renovation at Mill Creek Hall on the Blinn Brenham campus. Mr. Cervantes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Feldake is going to let me sit down, and he's going to take care of the next 3 agenda items.
Thank you, Mr. Cervantes. Good morning, Chairman Colcourse, Dr. Hensley, members of the board. I'm here to present to you now agenda item 6B. I do have a short presentation as this is part of our master plan projects. So I'll present that to you and then talk about the agenda item. Very good. So this agenda item 6B is a request that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with Madison Construction LP for general contractor services and Avanex for audio-visual contractor services related to the Esports renovation at Mill Creek Hall on the Blinn Brenham campus. We haven't looked at this in a little while, so I'm just going to remind us of what this project entails. Again, in our master plan implementation, this is project number 8 that we are moving along with. So we're well on our way to that total of 16 projects in our first phase of the master plan. Again, this is at Mill Creek Hall. The big picture on this is that this is a conversion of 2 existing classrooms in Mill Creek Hall, previously occupied by the engineering programs that have been moved to the STEI building. Those classrooms were identified in the master plan to be renovated for an esports program. The budgeted cost from the master plan was $600,000, and we intended to complete that in the FY22 year. We then went through design. Within the design, we've identified the classrooms 101, 101P, which is a print room, 103 and 103P. And we then worked with an architect and came up with a design, brought that to the board last fall, and were approved to move forward at that time. That included a renovation for reception, coach's office, war room, an analyst studio, 16 gaming stations, 6 competition stations, event seating, console gaming lounge, storage, server room, as well as mechanical, electrical, and AV IT upgrades, and some room for future growth with some added gaming space within the room. On February 22nd, the college received proposals in response to the request for proposal for general contractor services. A committee reviewed and scored those proposals. Based on the committee's score of the proposals, the administration recommends the board authorize the administration to negotiate and execute a contract with Madison Construction LP for $422,000 for general contractor services related to the esports renovation at Mill Creek Hall on the Blinn Brenham campus. Additionally, using the board policy CF Legal for pre-approved interlocal contractors, the college received 2 proposals for audio-visual contractor services. A committee reviewed and scored these proposals. Additionally, the academic technology group vetted this contractor, and the administration recommends that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with Avanex for $102,025 for audio-visual contractor services related to the esports renovation at Mill Creek Hall on the Blinn Brenham campus. Now, to go back to our district-wide facility master plan, that indicated that the cost for this project would be $600,000. The received proposals, along with our remaining budgeted items for some additional FF&E that we need to buy and some smaller technology items. Those proposals, along with the remaining budget, do exceed our master plan estimate by $32,000. So we are asking the board to increase our funding by $32,000. With that, I do say we have within the construction budget a $30,000 construction contingency. We feel that if we are diligent in managing that, we can refund that money back and get this project on budget by the time we open the building. As far as funding for this project, schedule. The schedule of the project allows for the beginning of construction in May, whenever students leave the building for the summer, and to be complete by the fall of 2022. Both of these contractors have indicated that they can meet this schedule. Funds for the project are available from unrestricted cash. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
So just to be clear, we're asking for $632,000 as opposed to $600,000 at this point?
Yes, sir.
Questions?
And if I'm reading this right, and hopefully I'm on the right one, we're looking at Madison Construction for
Yes,
this?
sir. For the general
Now,
contractor.
I'm not familiar with them. Have we used them before in the past?
Yes, sir, many projects. They're currently doing the old main renovation.
Okay.
They renovated the library. They've done several other projects for us.
Okay, good, good.
So moved. Be approved.
Trustee Mosers makes a motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Krausen seconds. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. Moving to item C, authorization for the administration to negotiate and execute a contract for flooring contractor services for the flooring replacement at Melcher Hall on the Blinn Brenham campus. Mr. Feltake?
Yes, sir, again. The request for agenda item 6C, this request that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with Esports Solutions for flooring contractor services for the flooring replacement at Melcher Hall on the Blinn Brenham campus. At Melcher Hall, we have some very dated carpet. It's beginning to unravel and come apart. It could become a trip hazard. We'd like to remove that and replace that with the LVT that we're beginning to put in other residential facilities on campus. And in doing so, we solicited proposals using board policy CF Legal. We received these proposals in, and the college reviewed those. Based on the proposals, administration recommends that the board authorize the administration to negotiate and execute a contract with Ace Floor Solutions LLC for $125,120 for the flooring replacement at Melcher Hall on the Blinn Brenham campus. Although Ace Floor Solutions, proposal included a higher price, their proposal is recommended as the best value to the college. The flooring product proposed by Ace is made in the USA with a 2 to 3 week lead time, whereas the second proposal included a flooring product made internationally with an unknown lead time. And this time, that's a very difficult thing. Additionally, both vendors were invited to visit the project. Ace performed a site visit, and their proposal offers an awareness of existing conditions, whereas the other vendor declined the site visit, and committee members were concerned that their proposal may not include a complete understanding of the existing conditions. The project schedule allows for the work to be performed in the summer of 2022 and completed prior to students returning in the fall of 2022. Funds for this project are available in the FY22 repairs and renovations budget. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
What type of floor did you say was going to be put down?
Luxury vinyl tile, it's an LVT. It's a fairly standard, it's what you see in the upper floors even of the STEI building. It's a very good cleanable surface for our student housing areas.
Any questions?
I just have a question. I think Melcher was one of those in the master plan that there were a couple of indexes that were used about, what needs to be done to them and everything else of that nature. My question is, I'm sure there's more than that needs to be done to that facility to bring it up to a higher level. And by doing this, will you be, when you have to do the other things, will you be needing to replace this very soon because you're having to go in and do other things?
Melcher Hall is identified, and I believe later in the second stage of the master plan.
I
So
just didn't remember.
we are looking at a renovation. So it is one of the facilities that will remain. Some of our other student housing facilities will go away later in the master plan. It will remain. So it has been identified for renovation. What that full renovation is, we would need to get into the programming to identify that scope. And based on the current condition of the flooring, that's an immediate need that we need to
Okay.
address now.
Thank you.
Okay, looking for a motion that the board authorize the administration to negotiate and execute a contract with Ace Floor Solutions LLC, flooring contractor services for the flooring replacement at Melcher Hall on the Brenham campus.
So moved.
Trustee Bohart, trustee Benke, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, item D, authorization for the administration to negotiate and execute contracts for roofing contractor services for the roof replacement at the Bain Building on the Brenham campus. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. My last one. This is a request that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with CR Systems, Inc. For the roofing contractor services related to the roof replacement at the Bain Building on the Brenham campus. And before I go too much further, I do want to remind the board that we had some conversations about the Bain Building about this time last year when we were talking about options for our football program. I just want to remind everyone where we landed on that. The programs that were previously located in BAME have remained in BAME. So the weight room is still in BAME and the coaches' offices are still in BAME. BAME is identified later in the master plan for some further renovations. But as of now, this again is an immediate need. We need to replace the roof on the BAME building to keep that building viable. So using board policy CF legal, the college received proposals on February 18th. We received 3 proposals from roofing contractors. Based on these proposals, the administration recommends that the board authorize the administration to negotiate and execute a contract with CR Systems, Inc. for $143,512 for the roof replacement at the Bain Building on the Brenham campus. CR Systems, Inc. has identified a material lead time of 6 to 8 weeks and a construction time of 30 days, allowing for the roofing replacement to be completed in the summer of 2022. Funds for this project are available in the FY22 repairs and renovations budget. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Trustee
Mark, you
Bohart.
know me, I'm going to
Yes,
ask
sir.
a question. Well, my question becomes primarily around board policy CF. It talks about a pre-approved procurement list. My question is, does that preclude any local contractors from bidding on this, or are they part of that procurement list?
I do not know of any, and we would certainly reach out to any that we knew about. I do not know of any local roofing contractors that are on those cooperative pre-approved interlocal lists. It's a different process, an RFP process where we would advertise in the paper and anyone can bid on it is different than a process where you go through the interlocal contractors who have already been vetted through those interlocal contracts. Their insurances have been checked, their prices have been checked. It's just a different process. And so there's a grab bag of different ways that we can go about procuring. There are advantages and disadvantages to each one of those processes. And this is just one of the processes that we have used based on our policies.
Okay, so, well, I guess let me ask it another way then. If there was a local, and I'm not specifically talking about this, but in any case like this, if there is a local contractor that would be interested in this, is there a way he can find out about it or not?
If we went through an RFP process, which is different than using the interlocal agreements, yes.
So in this case, the answer is no.
In this case, the answer is no.
Okay.
It was pre-approved vendors.
You don't run
Mr.
a
Sheward,
legal
would you
notice.
like to add anything to that conversation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a comment on the pre-approved procurement list from the state. Any companies can get on that list. They just have to go through the process of the state. So if a local company wanted to get on that pre-approved list, they would contact the state, go through the approval process, and then they would be on the list and then part of that selection process using this policy.
It's feed. Thank you, Mark.
Trustee Moser, did you have a question?
Well, but that process does not call for running a notice a legal notice in the local paper saying that do you do that also or not? No.
Not through the interlocal agreements. That's not part of the process.
For those interlocal agreements, the vetting occurs at the state level. So the state vets them, makes make sure that the prices are competitive, and that is a benefit of a state entity such as ours being able to use those pre-approved procurement lists from several areas of the state.
Is the state gonna help you if you have to sue the guy or something? Or?
I'll give you a number to call.
Yeah, that's right. You'll see how that goes.
But a good question and something that, we need to think about in regards to how do we get local companies opportunities. So, yeah, thank you. Okay, I am looking for a motion that the board authorize the administration to negotiate and execute a contract with CR Systems, Inc. for roofing contractor services for the roof replacement at the Bain Building on the Blinn Brenham campus. Trustee Aylert, second by Trustee Benke. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, last item on this agenda, item E, receive and accept Washington County Appraisal District amended budget for fiscal year 2020 and 2021 and fiscal year 2022, 2023 budget. Mr. Cervantes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last month, Blinn received notification from the Washington County Appraisal District on two actions that they're taking to their board later this month. One was a potential amendment to their FY21 budget and then a proposed FY23 budget. So on the first action, the amendment, they ended their fiscal year 21 with about 88,000 in unspent budget. So what they are asking is not asking, but notifying us that their board will be considering repurposing those funds. If their board does approve this action, the cost to Blinn that we would basically be foregoing a refund would be about $2,900, so pretty small. Secondly, the appraisal district has also provided Blinn a copy of their FY23 budget. The budget for next year is $1.2 million, significantly more than their budget the previous year, about $237,000. In conversations I had with the chief appraiser, she said what they did last year is they replaced antiquated software in order to improve their appraisal and collection process. That software was pretty old. They incurred debt when they purchased the software, and the bulk of the increase in next year's budget is tied to an annual debt service of about $140,000. So of the 237 increase for next year, 140,000 of it is for them for debt service. The debt service is 4 or 5 years, something that's a pretty small amount. If their board approves the FY23 budget, Blinn will have to increase its payment to the district by another $6,000 annually. We currently pay about $32,000 for the year. So, Mr. Chairman, we're asking for a support, or the administration supports both of the actions and are therefore recommending to the board that they receive and accept the appraisal district's amended FY21 budget and the FY23 proposed budget.
So move.
Got a motion, Trustee Moser?
Mr. Chairman, I will have to abstain from voting on this matter since I serve on the Washington County Appraisal District Board.
Thank you. Still looking for a second. Trustee Benke, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Douglas, did you get on that board? Are you, I'm serious. Huh?
He did.
Why do you think the budget got increased?
There he is.
Okay, thank everyone for your attendance. We are going to take about a 10-minute break before we go into executive session.
Could I just note and thank Aaron, who just retired and sat here through our entire board meeting. Thank you so much.
I had some comments, but I thought I might have.